Well, welcome to the Inviting Shift Show. I'm Christina Smith. I'm the AHA addict that just loves to hear everybody's huge stories of shift and AHA and how they implemented those AHAs, because I think transformation is more than just getting that AHA. You have to actually work with it and make choices that align with it. So today we have Jenn Danielson on our call, and she is a Reiki master, but she's going to tell us a little bit about yourself, because I don't want to assume to know you so well. Jenn?
A little bit there, so I'm going to tell you something, but I'm not quite sure what.
Oh, tell me about yourself. Sorry, you did freeze for a second. There we go.
Okay, good. So me, I'm a Reiki master and a life coach as well. And I also come from a background in healthcare and project management and project coordination. So I'm balancing a couple of things on both sides there. Yeah, I've been getting into between the Reiki and the coaching. I find coaching is like the marriage of Reiki and project management. So I sat in my first little coaching experience, and we were learning we were learning coach-like skills, and I sat there and went, the best of both worlds in one spot. So I get to bring the space and the energy in with step-by-step planning and help people create their own shifts. So that's really was sort of a big space for me around what was going on with my own stuff.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's a lot like me. Like, I want to be in that spiritual, emotional space, but at the same time, I want to be in that pragmatic, logical, put it together kind of
still
space.
Has to make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us about your shift, the one that you're going to share today.
So the one that I'm going to share today, this is one of those ones that has snuck up on me a couple of times. So I thought if it's happening to me, it's probably happening to others too. And I think it almost even speaks to a little bit the fact that I'm coming from these two different angles. I get distracted. I get caught up in, I easily get attracted to all these phenomenal, amazing, incredible projects that people are working on, and happily hop on the bandwagon and happily dive into anything and everything that's going on with that, and reach that point where I'm kind of going, all right, I am way too deep into this. And if this is what I was doing and this is all I was doing, then great. But keeping a handle on the 9 to 5, keeping a handle on my family, keeping a handle on, sleep, things like that, gets too much. So the one that, we were specifically talking about, when we were corresponding was a volunteer role at my daughter's school. And it, started off in this work. It was outside of work hours. I could work on stuff on the side on my own. It looked like a perfect fit in terms of timing and still being able to contribute to the school community, which was super important for me to be able to say, all right, yes, I'm involved, I'm present, I'm connected to this somehow, right? As things went on over time, I let it, and I adopted a bigger seemed totally reasonable, totally doable. Of course, why would I not do this? It's a short-term commitment. I just get through it. I get on and I move on to the next thing. And it just grew, and it grew to a point of, significant time commitment. And again, the struggle where I had with it, it was all still work that I loved and all still stuff that I really connected to and things that I wanted to do and things that I wanted to be part of. And I ended up again with sort of these two pieces going on, where something that I loved and this top of it, and trying to reconcile the fact that I was having this, these negative feelings towards something that I felt so strongly about. So, it was a bit of an interesting moment there.
Yeah, and I think that happens to a lot, that can happen to a lot of us. I know I went through a
Mhm.
period where I felt like I woke up every day and I was checking off a list.
Yeah.
And, you know, and they say, well, take the stuff out that you don't like, but there was so many things on there that I had just forgotten why I was doing them, basically, because I
Yeah.
just got so used to doing them over and over and over again that I
Mhm.
forgot to actually enjoy them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think that
exactly.
that can, when we're
Yeah,
torn
well,
in so
and
many directions.
absolutely. And it turned out to be, you know what, the scope of what was going on was just
Mm.
just too much. Or I didn't see anyway the way to scale it back appropriately. So for me in this case, it had to be all or nothing. And yeah, it turned into I stepped away from that work. And of course now I get it, you know, you find other little ways because I still want to be that core piece of it that's still being connected to the community, that's still being connected to my daughter's school and having that role in there. And that's part of the school culture that everybody of course does that. So there's lots of other ways for me to do that I can do a little more distance and a little more hands off without getting
Mm.
rolled into that a clear end there, because it got to that point where even if I scaled it back, I'd still be I'd still either find a way to get deeper into it again and have it take more time and have it take more energy that I just didn't have to give, or I'd still be looking at it, I'd still have that sentiment of, oh, you know what, this is taking too much time, even if it isn't anymore.
Mm.
So yeah, it was, but yeah, that's what it came down to, is it wasn't even a matter of, for me personally, being able or willing to scale back. It was just at that I have to step right off of
Yeah, you have to. Sometimes you just have
this whole
to
thing right now.
cut it off. And I think that fleeting thought. I think that happens so often, though, when we overcommit. And I remember that there's, I forget who said it, but they said, you know, if you tell yourself that you never have enough time, you'll make it so. You know,
Yeah.
you'll always make it so. And I'm a big one at this, because I fill my calendar and I really don't give myself enough time to do the tasks that, like, I always underestimate, like I'm some kind of magical being that can cram all of this like work into like a smaller time. And I mean, I am efficient and all of that, but at the same time, when I don't give myself enough time, it's like we set ourselves up for failure.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I don't give myself enough time and then I'm working till 1 a.m, I'm angry because I'm working till 1 a.m, but it was completely, you know, my choice to do it. And I think sometimes we forget why we're choosing the things that we want. And I know it's a huge thing for people like my husband, who are very social.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more of an introvert and he's more of an extrovert. So for him, he wants to go out and do everything with everybody. And like, he just wants to say yes, 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 yes. And he, you know, he has a men's group, he has a side job, he has a full-time job, plus he likes to do all these activities. So it's like, yes, are they all great for him? They all are very great for him, and they all feed him.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he has to make the choice, what feeds me the most? You know, what gives me the most out of my time? And he has to say no sometimes, or else we would never see him. I think you froze a little bit there for me. So there you are.
No, I did hear you saying that. Yeah, you've got to choose there. They may all be great. They may all be ideal. They may all fit
Yes.
Your frame of what you want to do, but it doesn't mean they can all happen, or all should happen, or all are best to happen right now. And I think that's the struggle, is what creates the best.
And how do you decide?
And looks like you froze this time. There we go. And yeah, and that's not to say that I wouldn't go back and do something like that again at a future date when the time does open up and the space is there to help create that stuff. But yeah, then and there, everything wasn't jiving. It wasn't happy in the same space.
Right, right. And then we could get to the part where we're like martyrs and we're doing it because we
Yeah.
feel like we should instead of because we really are giving out of, the joy of our heart, basically. And
Yeah.
it's amazing that we didn't work out yesterday. So I went to the library yesterday with my son. We go almost every week now, that he's grounded and he has no video games to play. But have you read this book, Big Magic?
Oh, I have not. It is on my huge list of books to read, but it is definitely on there. Yes.
Yeah, I was so thrilled to see it at the library. I read the whole
Awesome.
thing already.
Oh, you're
Like,
kidding. Since yesterday.
since yesterday, yesterday afternoon. We even went to the museum and everything, and I just could not put this book down. And one of the things that she says, I think is so relevant to this, is that, especially as a writer, so many ideas will come, and they come all day long. And we have to choose which ones to actually focus on because we can't write them all. And so, she talks about how she had this really great story about an Amazon jungle, and she kind of had it all, lined out, but it never came to pass because some things happened in her life and she wrote something else instead, and it was fine. But then later in her life, when she went to go back to it, she had all of her notes and she couldn't put it together anymore. And then she just decided she finally would give it up, and she was like, this obviously isn't coming to me anymore, because she really believes in the genius being external to you. Mm-hmm. So then what happened is she met this other woman, Ann Patchett, and it was like when they met, she transferred that story to that other woman. So sometime, because the woman wrote another story about the Amazon jungle that was very similar in so many ways.
Yeah.
And she had never discussed it with her, never, but when she started talking to her, oh, I'm writing this story, they started talking about it. They were like, that is so weird. Oh, so her way of saying is that the ideas that we don't get to means that, maybe they're not really supposed to be with us. Maybe we're just transporting them into the next, person who really is available for them and really can give them everything. Yeah. And it was such a beautiful thing for me, because I was telling Ahmed before you got on, like, I get so many ideas. I am a writer. I also do marketing for people, and I'm a coach. So it's like, and now I run a show too. So it's like, I want to do everything. Yeah. It's so hard for me to level it down. But if I don't, I completely exhaust myself. And then I become this martyr to my work, or a victim of my work, rather than really leading it and really being a master of it. And, and really loving what I'm doing, and it's a question I have to ask myself all the time, because since I left my 9-to-5, like, even in the beginning of business, when you're not making so much money, it's like, but do I love what I'm doing? Like, and that's what guides me now. And I have such a trust in that, but it's really difficult to choose, what needs to be done now and what can hang on, and I can hear that was really your challenge, was you really want to participate in school. It's not because it's a requirement or requested. Yeah. Like, you really want to be involved. And yet sometimes there's other things that are just creating more curiosity, as Elizabeth Gilbert would put it.
Yeah. And you use the word, I things, and I would devote that much time to each of them, and they would all suck, and that was the other piece of it too, is to sit there and watch, not only, from a production standpoint, from, the technical or the productivity standpoint, to watch that suffer, which just is not cool. For me, that's my own thing. I'm going, nope, that's crap. I'm not putting that out. But to know that also, I'm not seeing my daughter as much because I'm out 2 or 3 nights a week. I'm not, all my relationships are suffering as well. And then on top of that, then to start to see my own personal wellness suffering on top, while overworking. And then you can live a little while undersleeping. And then at that final stage where you go, all right, and I haven't barely seen my family. I haven't seen my friends in months. okay, now this is when the relationships start to suffer. Then that was the sort of what pushed me over the edge on that, because yeah, there is that. There are other people who can do this and who have the time to devote to these things, and that's exactly it. And they'll reach that better level, and it'd be a better space for them than it would be for me right now. And I think that's all those things fall into that whole big picture of the piece. So, all right, I'm going looking for that book. I may have to kick the book off the current top of my list and move that one up.
Yeah, it was amazing. I didn't think my library would have a cool dinky library, but when I saw it, I was like, get out. So yeah, I've already read it. It's pretty amazing. Lots of really she's a fantastic storyteller.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And it's obviously an easy read. But yeah, so I had a few thoughts and then I got thrown off. So how do you really decide? What is your method for deciding, you know, what gets the most attention?
I think when it gets to a point where I have to think about it, I sort of end up with, okay, from points of attention, am I at work? Am I at my 9 to 5? Good start. That's where I've got to be. Outside of that, I've scheduled my space for Reiki and coaching, and how I schedule my space and time with my family. So anything that comes in after that then has become a much more mindful process for me over the last few years. So it's just really, if it's a quick one-off, I'm still probably going to jump on the bandwagon. But if it's something that takes more commitment and more time, then does it fit in with what I need to do? And really, what am I feeling about it? And I'm giving a lot more space and respect for that, rather than just the checklist of, does this fit with something I've, you know, it used to be, well, is this something I would do? All right. Now, is it really sitting well with me? Is it really connecting? Is it really inspiring? Do I feel good when I think about it? And that kind of check-in. And I don't sit there and, sometimes I do, I'll sit there and mull it over forever. But other times it can be really a really quick, what's my gut saying? And that holds a lot more power for me now than it used to.
Yeah. And I think when we're very aware of the amount of time that we have, like the way that you schedule, you know, I try to do that too, make sure that I'm getting my time with my family, and that,
absolutely,
you know, that we're having dinner most nights together, that type of thing. But that really helps me see how much time I really have available. And then that becomes a lot more precious. And I don't say yes to everything that comes along, or just because I think I should. Like, that's a big one for me, because I should. And it's like, you know, that it becomes hard if you really believe that you should be doing all these millions of things, and society will tell you, you know, that of course you should work and you should volunteer and you should do this and you should do that. I mean, there's so many shoulds, and yet, you know, my husband once asked me, well, Christina, I want you to name me one woman that does this. Just this one that aces it all. And I was like, well, there must be one. Because I'm hearing all about her, you know. Like, surely one of them must be perfect, because, you know, we hear about it so much, and it's not true. Yeah, it's not true. You know, I used to think my mother did everything, but while she was going to school and working full time, I was taking care of her kids and cleaning the house. Like, there, you know, there's a give and take, and I'm not, you know, being angry about it, but it's like, you didn't really do it, right? Like, all by yourself. Like, there was help. And I think that's something that we forget about, is we can ask for help. We don't need to do it all ourselves. Yep. And like we were talking about, you know, and it just opens up a space for somebody else to serve. And I think sometimes we forget how there are people who want to serve us, and we don't give them an opportunity. And sometimes these are opportunities.
Yeah. Oh no, fair enough. Fair enough. And I mean, it's, yeah, it's a weird thing to think about that last little bit where you can say, right, there are people who want to serve us and go, yeah, that's a thing. And somebody else cuts my hair. I don't expect to be able to cut my own hair. So
Right.
every now and then,
That's a good.
there are people who are willing to send me prepared meals to my house. If that to me becomes the priority of, spending my time cooking and cleaning, or having somebody else. Oh, I know people who do that. And the first couple of times I heard about it, I thought, that's a thing. I wonder who does that. People, it's a thing. It's,
Sure.
it's totally. And I can sit there and look at that now and go, okay, well, yeah, for the time and effort that I'm putting in. And is it my favorite thing to do? No. But do I enjoy eating a meal that's home, prepared like that? Yeah. Okay. Well, it suddenly makes more sense now, and you can sit there and go, okay, and that frees me up then to refocus on something that is
exactly. You don't like cleaning your house, it may make more sense to have somebody come clean it for you. If you can put that time and energy into your business or something that you're more passionate about, that to me makes perfect sense. Fantastic. Well, yeah, that's trying to think if I had any other thoughts. I'm sure I did, but I could go on and on and on.
I had to pour my coffee off to the side and didn't want to do that directly in front of the microphone because I have no idea what that would have sounded like. But oh my gosh,
we didn't hear anything, so it was cool.
Awesome.
Fantastic. So let's just go through some of these questions, and I'm sure we'll have more thoughts. So when the situation wasn't right, so I'm guessing that's when you started feeling like you had a list of things and you weren't, you were feeling less than happy about them. What's one word that you would have used to describe that, the way you felt at that moment?
To come to use the first time, because it is for me a very harsh word, but I think I said earlier, resentful. And I feel I don't want to even associate with that sentiment, but I think that's what it was. Yeah, I started to feel resentful around the whole around the whole commitment, unfortunately, which is leads to all sorts of other unfortunate things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think resentment is something, it's very assimilated with like martyrdom, when we forget why we're doing what we're doing and we're just doing it because we feel like we have to. I know I grew up with a lot of seeing a lot of resentment. My mother, as many things as she did, she kind of felt like she had to, and they weren't really her choice. I decide. So something I learned in my health school, was that the way I decide. I lost you.
That's okay. No, you did for a sec too, but you're back.
Okay. Well, I can't see you, but I can hear you. So.
Oh, okay.
That's perfect. It's fine. I still am here. But one thing that we did is we made these triangles that were upside down, and at the top you put, what do you spend the most time at? And then you list them down, like the top 5 things that you actually spend your time on. And then you list the 5 things that you want to spend your time on. And then you see the differences. And I think that was really eye-opening for me.
Yeah.
Because when I realized that I was spending all my time doing these things that I didn't even really care about, or at least not as much as these 5 things, it was like, okay, I am making choices, and I'm choosing to do these things that aren't nearly as important as these other things. And I was making the things that I really wanted. It reminds me of that metaphor of when, they put the big rocks in and then the little rocks and the sand. Like, I was letting all the important things kind of filter around all these other things that I was doing instead of making them the focus.
Yeah.
It's a little exercise people can do in case they want to know what's important to them, is, really figure out what's important to you and make sure that that's taking up the right amount of time.
Yeah. Well, I like the reference you had to sort of owning owning what it was. Now, is my video still missing? Or did it show?
It is still missing.
Oh, you're kidding. Do you want me to try and reconnect?
Sure. Yeah. Pop out and pop back in.
Am I back?
You are back.
I see me. Yay. Okay, good.
I can see you now. Perfect.
No, I think it was the reference that you had to sort of taking ownership for it. And that's actually something that I was talking about yesterday was no matter how, there are lots of influences on me that I can't accept responsibility for. There are lots of things that will happen because of what I do that I need to acknowledge, but I can't ultimately accept responsibility for. And all my decisions are mine. All my choices are mine. All the things that I do are mine, and the shoulds are mine, and all that. And that's something that I need. That is really important for me, and I think for everybody to just be aware of. And that comes back to that sort of being really mindful of what it is that you're about to do, and the impact that it's going to have on you, and the impact that it's going to have on those around you, and what is it that's around you that's impacting that decision. And it's all, and not in a way to become this huge, overwhelming, that every decision of, oh my God, do I have flavored coffee or plain coffee, doesn't become this epic stalling decision, but just that, just that awareness of, all right, when I do this, there is a little ripple effect that fades out of it. And good, ugly, big or little, there's something to it. So, but yeah. Idea that these.
Hold on 1 second. I'm waiting. There we go. Yeah. And I think it's just about really focusing on what we want in life, and, and letting a lot of other things go. We're going to be distracted by so many ideas. And like Elizabeth Gilbert says, maybe there's somebody else's. Maybe that's for somebody else to do, I've turned down volunteer opportunities for an organization I really love because, I just, it didn't feel right. It's like what you said, your gut feeling was that it doesn't feel right. So I'm not going to do that. That's a good opportunity for somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So what is one question you would ask somebody if they started feeling that way, where they were checking off a list or feeling resentful?
What would I ask somebody if they started feeling that way in the same sort of space?
Yeah. If you were coaching somebody.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So many, I think.
Right.
I want to know what, I'd be curious for them to be able to describe what made this, what was important about this for them. What was their connection to this? What was their original connection to this? Kind of like you said, you forget why you're doing it. So why were you doing it? And what is it about that? Take it up one level. What is it about that reason that speaks to who you are? And is this then the best way to be fulfilling that? Does that make sense?
That does make sense. Yeah, it reminds me of a combination of like Danielle Laporte's desire map, right? What are your core desired feelings?
Yeah.
And it is supporting that, and I call it like your North Star, or your guiding, whatever. It doesn't matter what you call it, God, spirit, soul, whatever. But there's some core underlying values that you have and feelings that you want to feel. And I think that's a really great way of defining, are these things supporting those, and it's so funny because so my son's in trouble. It's an ongoing saga. So we found him being sneaky again the other day, like 13-year-olds will do. And so I said to my husband, I said, what we really need to do is come up with like family core values that we all believe in, that we all want to, be respectful of each other, hear each other out, listen, all those things. And I want him to come up with his own so that when behaviors happen in the future, I can point to it and go, okay, well, you say you want these things. So does your behavior support these things? So are you sabotaging yourself, or is it really mom and dad being mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh. I've got it. My daughter's no, she's not 13. Yeah, she's not 13. She's almost 10, and we're doing the same thing. I'm going, okay. She comes to me with a question, which I don't want to stop at all. I'm like, thank you for coming to talk to me. Give me a moment to think about that, because I need to clear some of my own stuff out of the way.
Yeah. Oh, with a daughter, I'm
back to you, you know, and it's like
harder.
It's getting crazy. I'm like, oh, 13 could be fun. But yeah, no, I love that. So oh yeah, God. No, but I love that idea of the family values too. And then even if it is supporting it, is it the best way to support it? Because impacting everything else. Because yeah, everything. We always love to do everything, right? Mm-hmm. But is it the best way to do it because of the impacts it's having on these other things that are also super important to you and are some of these keywords up here? So
right. Absolutely. Yeah. So we're going to do that later on. We're going to do our
I love that
desire map vision boarding for our family.
Yeah.
I think it keeps him involved, and it kind of helps him, because I mean, what I'm still angry about with my parents is I felt like they didn't really teach me how to stay open to shift and to be okay with those uncomfortable moments and, you know, all of that stuff. And I want them to know, yeah, you're in trouble and it sucks, but at the same time, these are your consequences. They're not going to hurt. They're not, you know, you're just going to live through it. And, you know, he's really lost a lot of trust in us. So the way that he can earn his trust back is by acting by his core desired feelings. So yeah, we'll see. We'll have to update you and see.
Definitely. I'd love to hear that goes. That's very, but then too, that he's got some, back to that ownership, he's got some ownership in some of those ideas. Cool. Yeah. Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah. And why the true underneath reason why we do things. When he was little, he got in trouble too. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the Mankind Project, but my husband belongs to this men's community called the Mankind Project. Yeah. And have you heard of them?
I have. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So they have like core values. And when he was younger and he used to act up, we used to make him read them every day, the core values. And it was interesting because it talks about, you know, serving others and being part of a community and how you act in a community, you know. So it was interesting.
Very cool.
Yeah. So, so I think we already talked about how you handled the challenges, because you really had to go back to why you really wanted what you were putting on your plate, you know, and did those things all fit, you know? Yeah. It's amazing if time wasn't, you know, a restrictor for us.
Sleep. Why sleep? I don't know. You know, yeah.
I know. And yet if I don't get sleep, forget it. So what's one word to describe the whole shift for you?
Oh, sorry, you froze up there again for a sec.
Oh, I'm sorry. One word to describe your whole shift from, you know, overwhelming yourself to really choosing what you wanted.
And none of them are quite right, but I think the one that's being the loudest is just lighter. I think there's a few. I didn't know if I was going, is it renewal? It wasn't refreshing? I'm like, no, but I think it's just, it was a lot lighter.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. There were still other things that came in that got done. Like it wasn't I didn't all of a sudden have 15 free hours. Other things had to happen, but it was, they were different things, and that was definitely lighter.
Nice. That's such a good thing, because I think when people think about, you know, doing less, they feel as though they're going to have to carry a heavier burden or something, as if, you know, they have to carry the guilt and the shame. And I mean, that's a choice. We both know that it's a choice to feel guilty about not doing something. I mean, for instance, my mother likes to call me and tell me about all the things that her kids are doing to her, basically. You know, I have to pay my son, your brother's car insurance. Why, Mom? Why? Well, because, you know, he's got a family, and if he doesn't pay it, you know, so what if something happens and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, it's still a choice, because it's your insurance. You can call them and say you don't want them on your insurance, and that's the end of it. Or you can sit here and complain about it. Like, you can feel bad about it, not that you have to, but you can get past that. Or you can be angry. Like,
yep.
You know, this is your choice.
Yeah.
It's not magically going to be paid by some fairy because you're complaining about it. Like, I mean, it's a choice, and we don't have to feel guilty. You know, we can say, look, these are my limits. These are my boundaries. I'm not going to feel bad about anything that happens outside of these boundaries because that's not for me. And that sounds like something that you really did is, you know, you looked at it and you said, I'm not going to feel bad about not doing this thing. I still participate in other ways. I'm getting the things done that I really need to focus on. I mean, how can we feel bad about that? If we don't do that, we'll end up, you know, spending a life trying to serve other people and making them happy. And so when we choose to do for ourselves, I think it does make us so much lighter because we're no longer responsible for the rest of the world. We're only responsible for ourselves. And it was such a big shift for me to start doing that because I was like, wow, you mean I can't make other people happy? Like, I can only make myself happy? I mean, that was like, it was so lightening for me because I no longer had the responsibility of the entire world on me.
Yeah.
So I can understand the word lighter. Any books or resources that you'd recommend?
Oh my goodness. Phenomenal books out there. And I think, oh my gosh, I apologize. I didn't even get around to nailing down a couple before this, but in terms of resources, I think to be really mindful and practice mindfulness and practice connecting back into myself, because that was one of the huge things for me. And even I've linked to some meditations on SoundCloud that I love, and just that's my commute in the morning, you know, once a week, is to sit there on the bus, my own time to connect back to me and where I'm at and where I'm going.
I'm going
that people can drop into is really, really helpful.
Okay. I'm going to list your exercises. The mindful exercises link that's here.
Thank you.
People can come back to it. But there's some mindful tools there that she offered. You talk about them.
Those are just, oh my goodness, because they're super fast. There's no woo woo. There's no, you know, nothing crazy about it. It's just stopping and being in that second. They're super fast, like under 30 seconds, and just going, all right, where am I? What have I got? What am I hearing? And it's crazy. Like, I just stopped and did that and went, oh my God, I'm actually hearing nothing. It's the only thing that I've been hearing you, and I've been hearing my own voice. But if I stop and listen to my room, I heard my cat snoring, and that's it. What am I drinking right now? And just incredibly fast mindful tools. But the more you do that, the more you become aware of what's happening around you and what's going on in your own body. And then when it comes to having something presented to you and say, all right, is this something I want to do? Whoa, okay, how's my body feeling? What do I feel happening around me and the energy around me when I'm thinking about this? And for me, that's been incredibly instrumental, just those little kinds of bits of awareness.
And I think that's very important, because a lot of times when people think about mindfulness, they think meditation, like you have to sit there for hours and hours and hours. And that was so daunting to me, you know, because we live in an overstimulated world where we're, you know, constantly being thrown so much at our senses, whether it's visual or audio or even scent. Like, I'm very highly sensitive in all my senses, except for my eyesight. I'm pretty bad.
I hear
but
you.
Like, I can become so overly stimulated so quickly, and if I let that carry me, I mean, my whole sense of core values and everything is out the door, because it becomes this warrior sense where I'm just like faster, you know, check off more things, or, you know, and I forget that I'm supposed to enjoy it, or I forget how I feel about it, or even to pay attention to my body. And that's, I think, one of the things that leads to some of the most preventative illnesses, is that we just forget to check in altogether. And I did it for years. And what Jenn's saying is it really only takes, 30 seconds a few times a day just to really go, okay, how am I feeling? Because sometimes I can get up from my computer and not realize, like, I feel like this. And it's like, wow, is that tension? I didn't even know I was feeling stressed,
How did that even happen? Yep. Oh, no, and don't get me wrong. I still go to my massage therapist incredibly regularly. And she goes, how does this happen? I said, I have no idea. And I stopped and I thought, I sit at a computer, how many hours a day? And I know how it happened, but she has to remind me even still to pay attention to some of these things and go, all right, great. You paid attention to how you were feeling when you were sitting in that meeting, when somebody was speaking, but you didn't pay attention to how you were sitting. Okay, fair enough. So it's still, it's a work. And I think keep at it.
I think mindfulness is just, one of those things that nobody ever becomes like 100% mindful. And I said this the other day, except maybe Eckhart Tolle or somebody like that.
Yeah.
But like for the most part, like it's something that we have to consciously do because we are human beings, and because the way that we're built, it's just, if we were so mindful all the time, I would, my warrior would wonder if we were ever getting anything done.
Exactly. I'm just going to sit here and be in the present, damn it, and that's it. No, nothing would ever happen. But so it comes back to that balance again, on the one hand, and and then on the one hand, you've got to be up in here, forward thinking and doing your thing, and on the other hand, you've got to be, no, wait a minute, here and now is good too. Okay, and then go back and
But being human is holding a huge paradox of so much. So it's a flaw and it's awesome at the same time.
Yes.
It's like that quote that I always see, like, you're allowed to be a work in progress and a masterpiece at the same time.
At the same time.
I mean, that's exactly what it's like being human. It's tough and it's wonderful. What's one thing that you still want to shift about yourself in the future?
My goodness. One thing. Okay. Let's see.
If we only work on one thing at a time.
I know. I think there's still, one of the, I think going, in terms of personal work, I think, the work in progress right now is what we were talking about earlier, when people, or in particular, when my daughter and I have a conversation, she comes to me with a question or an idea or an observation or whatever. And I have to say, okay, hold on. Mommy's got to go deal with her own stuff. And then we'll come back and we'll have a clean conversation. I think that's definitely, in terms of personal work, for me, that's something that will be ongoing for several years. And, I think that's probably going to be the big personal work. All sorts of stuff happening in terms of what I want to work on with the Reiki and the coaching and how that all evolves. But that's me putting my headspace together and taking the time appropriately, and continue to take that appropriate time to put that headspace together and grow that side of me in a really thoughtful, managed manner, so that I don't end up getting back into, I don't want to end up in a space where I look at this and go, God, that's just taking up so much of my time. Why am I doing this? So I think those two things combined are sort of the forefront right now.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Hi, Canuck Runner.
Yeah, hi.
And big brother Ray. Oh my goodness, things are happening over here that I'm not even paying attention to.
Yep. So you've heard of Mankind Project. Have you heard of Woman Within?
No, I have not heard of that one.
Oh, so that's the women's version of Mankind Project. Basically, it was started by the wife of the founder of MKP.
Okay.
And that was phenomenal for me, and that's really what helped me shift most of my thoughts, because before I went to like therapy or I went to this organization, I lived in a really warrior intense life where I was always disconnected, and I kind of thought like Reiki and all this other stuff, energy movement and all that was kind of woo-woo, back then. So, I just go to the doctor and pop some pills and everything.
That cures
cool.
Everything. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, until it didn't. Or it made it worse, It caused me other problems that made my stomach worse. And I mean, all kinds of things. So I really shifted. And that was the reason, was because of this community of women and the magic that I saw there. So just in case you're interested,
pop over and take
they're a whole community of shifters.
Excellent.
And I actually stepped back from, when we talk about focus, I stepped back from really helping out in the organization for a little while, because although I loved it, it became too much for me and I had too much on my plate. And then this year they actually asked me to be on the board as marketing director, which I really was frightened, the international board, because I was like, oh my God, big board, I would be the youngest one. And, do I have enough queen in me to hold this energy? And it felt right. It really felt right. So I really stepped into it It's been a little bit more work than I thought, but it's something that I feel really good about. So just remember that because you don't feel good about it today doesn't mean that in 2 or 3 years it won't come back up and you won't be like, this feels right now. Exactly. You can always choose to come back to an idea or something that you really want to focus on. Mm-hmm. You just can't do it all at one time, because like Jenn was describing earlier, you give it this much time and this much time here and that much time, and I start feeling a little bad about it because I'm not giving anything the amount of effort I really want to give it. And so it's not coming out like I want it to. So what is the point of doing 100 things if you're not doing any of them well? I mean, that really is a shot to your confidence if you feel like you're getting up just to do things, half-ass, excuse my language, but just to do it half-ass. And then you're like, I don't even like doing this. Well, of course you don't like doing it because you're not able to do it well. And that's so important, because our creativity is really what keeps us curious. And again, in the Elizabeth Gilbert book, she talks about how curiosity is even more important than passion. And passion is something I've been using as a term, but she's right. I mean, curiosity is where your passion lies. Whatever you're curious about learning, just go do that. That's what you want to do.
And it's just totally not okay. I mean, people used to talk about being multi-passionate, but I think that comes back to, what is it that you're curious about, and what is driving that curiosity, and what are all these things, what are all these passionate items, again, speaking to it at that next level. And I love that. I love that idea that it's not just because it's not right now. Doesn't mean it won't be right later, or won't be as right for somebody else. I think that's all incredible. I mean, that's, one of those huge things to keep in front of mind. Yeah.
And in truth, if I would have stayed on doing the things that I was doing before, even though I wasn't really passionate about them, even for the organization, I wouldn't have been given the opportunity that I was given now, because I would have already been in some role. I would have already been doing something else. So sometimes we have to say no now so that we can have a really big yes later.
Yeah.
Just because your path goes, by something doesn't mean that you have to choose it,
but shiny and squirrel and also it's hard. It's hard. It is, but that's why it's, to have those clarity of those core ideas that we were talking about, and to have that ability to stop and go, take a breath. Okay. Instead of just jumping, because so much of it is like, oh my, you're right. That warrior mentality that you were talking about, where it's like, okay, no, it's there. I got to jump on it.
Yeah, exactly. And even if it doesn't feel right, I mean, I think that's your biggest indicator.
Yep.
So what's one thing you hope to do before you die?
Oh my goodness. What's one thing? Okay, one thing. Sorry, fix my hair. First and foremost, fix my hair. I absolutely want to, I'm going to lump a bunch of things into one thing, and that's going to evolve out and do a ton more traveling, see a ton more places, and take a ton of photographs of it while I'm out there and connect with a ton more. I was going to say people, but the people and the energy of all those places that I haven't been yet.
Very neat. Mm-hmm. And last question, what's one thing or person that's triggered a huge difference in your life? If you could hashtag it made the difference.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I think the whole life is such a journey, and everything feeds off the thing that's happened before for me. And one person or one thing. I love coming back to that we were talking about earlier with the curiosity, and as potentially cheesy as that sounds, and not just because I suspect my mom will be watching this later, but I think that goes back to speaking to some of, how I was when I was little, and some of that curiosity that was allowed or instilled and sometimes encouraged to say, what's going on out there, and go ask those questions. So I think that's a big part of it, because I think everything that's happened is, like I said, is part of this ongoing journey. And that personal growth piece has come from, my God, it's like the Oscar speech, right? There's so many people you could thank along the way. So I would feel really, really unjust pulling one person out of there, everything. Mm-hmm. From my Reiki, or the 3 or 4 people I had to talk to convince me to do coaching, to, the coach instructors, and all that along the way. So I think I would have to go back to saying, all right, what is it that keeps me in that headspace of wanting to move forward, and and to myself then for recognizing that something needed to happen. Okay, so I have to go back to my parents, and then I have to go back to my husband, who sits.
Well, and what the hell are you doing? Like, to you, your curiosity too. I mean, that's really what kind of triggered it all, right?
Yeah.
It's just curious, and I think that's so important, because I think today, something I'm trying to instill in my son, especially as he's being grounded from video games, is that, of being conscious of what, all the choices that we're making. Because I think when he's on video games, like, he loses his mind for those hours. Yes. And like, he's not really completely curious anymore, and when we take away all the overstimulation, it's hard for him to like get back into that groove of being curious and wanting to go outside in nature and do things, and, ride his bike or whatever. Gaming robot.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I'm really thrilled that he really messed up in a big way, and he didn't have any of that stuff. I'm terrible. But I mean, he did it, and now he gets a chance to refocus on all that stuff, and I have the chance to teach him again about being mindful during the day, and taking those moments to reconnect to himself, because I think there's so often during a day our body's telling us things. And if we're just too busy to, pay attention to it, it just has to get louder and louder and louder. And I really believe that that's how a lot of preventative illnesses happen.
Yep. Is
because we put too much stress on our body, and we try to ignore all those signals that it's telling you. If you're getting a headache, that's not natural. That's that's your body telling you something, and I think we just try to ignore it, take that pain pill and give it away, and it'll come back in other ways. At least it did for me. Mine started. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say that's where I come at with from Reiki. I've had so many conversations with people whose perception of Reiki is that I'm going to try and sell them on a magic bullet, or that I'm going to, come at them and this will cure everything that ails you. I'm like, no, it doesn't. What Reiki does is it relieves stress. The whole point of it is for you to relax, and that's what helps you feel better. Because the minute you relax, and the minute whether you believe it's energy flowing through your body, or whether you believe it's whatever, It doesn't matter. You're relaxed. Your body is then able to go in and go, okay, now we can get rid of that headache. Now we can focus on healing the body because we've let go of some of the stress. And that's all there is to it.
And I think it goes hand in hand with figuring out what that problem is. Like, what is the thing that's causing you the stress in the first place? Because Reiki is really great for, you know, relieving all those things.
Yeah.
It's just like, if we could just go back to the beginning before it actually started, we wouldn't need it nearly as much.
And you've got that moment. And then the Reiki, the coaching. So and then you go back and say, all right, so now, what? When it comes back, you can be mindful of, hey, what was I doing that created that? What was sitting there that was created that? What was in my space that created that? And then you've got awareness. Oh my God. Awareness is so much of the space to move forward.
But it has to be like a conscious, Joe is saying stress can be attachment to the future or the past. Oh, it definitely can be. It's usually because we're not in the present moment. Eckhart Tolle is one of my favorite writers, and he has the book The Power of Now. And if we could just live in the moment that we are in now instead of planning for the future or shaming ourselves about the past, I mean, it would be so much easier. But we have this human ego that has to constantly come in and tell us, you know, what we need to be afraid of or what we should be ashamed of or all of those things. And we kind of have to let it go a little bit. I think so often we focus so much, like we give ourselves so much power is really what it comes. Instead of focusing that power on our own choices and how we react and how we, you know, the things we speak, we focus on trying to control everything else. And it's so ridiculous. And I say that from a space of, I do it all the time.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Exactly. You know, I do notice that Eckhart Tolle speaks very unrushed and present. And I'm hoping one day I get there. I am a nervous chatter. Like I will go fast and rumble right over words without pronunciating them properly. But he is like, he's good because he's just where he is. And I'm always like, okay, let's get it out. Let's go. And, you know, because that's how I was raised. Do the next thing. Do as much as you can.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up because it's almost been an hour now.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. It's fun. It's a good little conversation we have. It's fun stuff. So I am going to stop the recording.